Any other ways? Or we can start with this one. And
well, I mean, I was also thinking that we would want to sort of list out the various different use cases, like essentially the trip benefits, but sort of a drill down version of that, like all the different use cases that the users would use it for, and then figure out how to monetize each of those use cases.
And that goes here.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Basically, here you wanna make use cases, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Also, in this case, since Google already has a ecosystem of other apps, would you think about integrating other apps into this so that you can introduce other product, other ecosystem to the user as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And that will come when we're thinking about how to, at this point, right? How to monetize it, right? So, for example, here, then you can start thinking, okay, are there any other, the obvious one is the obvious thing is advertisements, but anything else that they have? I don't know.
So you mean when you talk about monetization, you would consider it internal as well as external ways to do it, right? Internal, I mean using other Google apps and
Other ecosystem apps.
other ecosystem apps, exactly. And external would be other partner apps.
Exactly. Okay, but that would consider that as part of the solution. Okay, so let's start since
I have a question over here.
Yeah,
so the use cases that we have mentioned over here are basically for the app that we have right now in its current form, where it doesn't allow us to search for flights or search for hotels and and start from there. It basically takes whatever information it has in your Gmail about your itinerary or booking or anything, and based on that, it creates your experience for the city that we are going that you're going to. So when you're talking about the use cases over here or the benefits, are we also are you also thinking about considering the use cases in which we extend the what this app can do in terms of even before the customer actually has started planning the trip, where the customer
that's a very good point. And what I'm thinking, my first thought on this was like, this is a very straightforward question about monetizing what they already have, right? So what you're saying is, like maybe we find out, hey, there's no way to monetize this yet. Okay, we need to expand it because nothing of this is really the key pain point that the people would pay for. And but I think my first instinct would be, hey, let's list the use cases that this application currently solves. All right. Is there something really painful here that we can charge for?
Got it. Yeah.
So I was thinking that we could do it that way, and then like sort of, because Google and Facebook are always looking for that over-the-top answer. So then I think what Partha was saying could serve as that over-the-top answer. Oh, and we could also expand it to serve as a travel agent, and then that would be like a premium version or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
But that's after we've worked through the whole framework and come up with all the other stuff.
So maybe, we'll say, is there a room for expansion, right? Maybe we go here to expand.
Yeah. But actually, when I opened it, I also expected it to be like a travel agent app. I thought it would take care of everything for me. And then I was like, wait a second, like you want me to put in my trip that I planned elsewhere? Then what the hell? So
that's
that's what actually I liked about it. As soon as I downloaded, connected with my Gmail account, it had all my trips, from whenever I had my Gmail account, everything in one place.
Right.
So I think, it basically is the use case is actually, you don't have to enter the information manually.
But this application was, when you look at it, it was not meant to serve as a before the experience application. It's an application that was targeted to your experience already in the place.
It's like Airbnb's experiences feature, basically, right?
Yeah.
Well,
neighborhood.
not really. It's not like that, and we can go into that because that's part of the monetization part.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was sorry. I was thinking about something else. Airbnb has that's something called as neighborhood. I think.
But basically, what they have is like, for example, things to do. Okay, I think this. Hold on. This is things to do. That's the part where they show you. Okay, you are in Rome. These are the things that you can do. You can go visit the Colosseum, or you can go to this castle. You can go to Plaza Navotna. You can do this. You can do that. Okay. Daily plans, as I said, is as if you are going on a tour for the entire day. Well, they can plan it for you, right? So they can tell you to go to different sightseeings. Getting around is about informing you about transportation. Okay, how you can get around with buses or with taxis or whatever, how much it costs. Food and drink, the obvious thing, right? Restaurants, bars. They have these safe places. I'm not sure what that is, but I think you guys are focusing on the reservations, which basically, is very limited because they only gather information based on reservations that you have information about in your Gmail account, right? But as I said, if you look at this application, it's really an application when you are already there at your destination, okay? Not so much for buying your ticket or anything like that. And that could be a good idea for expansion, right? But let's concentrate on what this application already has, right?
Yeah.
Malena?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed from this framework, when you tie the monetization to just the pain points, we would probably be overlooking opportunities that we would probably gathering user data and then using it for other products or productizing that outside of just user pain points. Because I understand for a product design perspective, how we should relate everything to the user pain points, but from the monetization perspective, so if I use or if users keep using Google Trips, then the information of like the kind of itineraries they make to this particular location or the places they visit is more useful to other businesses, and probably using that information as a product and then
And I think Jyoti, that goes to the point where I think Gabriel was talking about of expanding it, right? And we can definitely think about that.
Malena,
so, cover box.
Malena, when you identify users, right, you can actually identify the businesses as a user, going with the Jyoti's point.
Okay, so you're already starting. Let's back. Let's back.
Okay. Right. So there, I think it will be handled.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the right time to make this point, but say currently it is gathering data from my Gmail account and then throwing in some information that this is your trip and things to do around that reservation, correct? So what I have observed is, if, for example, if you send me an email with your itinerary, that shows up as my trip. So in that case, would your monetization model will have a premium version, which is a more finer algorithm catering to your own trips, or where will that come into picture?
So let me try to understand what you were saying. So you're saying that the information is gathered from your Gmail account, right? And that trip information is going to be presumably about your information, where you are going, not where somebody else is going.
Correct. But if you forward me an email with your itinerary, it shows up as my trip.
Interesting. Okay, so that's not right?
Yeah, it's
correct.
Probably a bug. We haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, that's experience.
Yeah, so I think that I think that's part of the maybe it's something that they need to optimize to personalize it even better. But I don't think that we should get into the nebulous things and to the details of that, because that's not going to help us with this question. Okay. Or how do you think that's tied to monetization?
No, like in a premium version, you will have a more finer control over What kind of trips?
Well,
Like
yeah,
a family account, it could be a family account, it could be
gotcha.
something like that.
I think it's a bug to tell you the truth. Like they probably need to optimize it, right? Because they haven't figured that out yet.
All right.
Okay, so let's talk about users. And so we were starting with business, right? Businesses, maybe. The obvious one, of course, are consumers. So two, right? Two types of users.
Yep.
Okay. So, and these consumers obviously are people that are travelers, right? Travelers that already, from what I'm seeing in the app, travelers that are mostly at destination, and they probably they are.
Should we call it the app
They are
users?
Right? This is not for work, but for pleasure, I think, mostly. Yes?
Should we call it as the app user?
Well, it's a pretty standard term, actually. Consumers is a very standard.
Yeah, but I think it's, travelers, that's the right way. Travelers, mostly tourists. I can imagine also people that go for work, but I think that's not the target. I think it's a lot of tourists that are looking for things to do in that location, okay? So let's go through, any other thoughts?
Well, what about, it doesn't necessarily have to be, well, I guess, now I'm trying to think if there's like a business angle to it. No, I can't think of one. Like, I can't think of one where you're traveling on work, on business, and you're trying to use Google Trips for something like that. But
no, I can imagine that.
Yeah, but then in that, you're still sort of using the app for pleasure, not for business. So it doesn't matter how you got there.
Oh, I see what.
Like Google may have sent you on a business class plane, or you flew coach on your own dime. Either way, you're looking at the app for pleasure once you've gotten to your destination, not for business.
Yeah. The only reason what I was thinking about that is because if you're trying to reach the worker or the employee that is traveling, right?
Yeah.
Might be in a different way than the way you try to reach consumers. So when, for example,
yeah. Because you think they would be on a per diem and might have more money to spend and that sort of thing.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So from the point of view of how to reach them, I think it's important to distinguish, which you mentioned,
Right.
So, so this could be, and I'm gonna put this here, it could be employees, that are like want to go out at night, right? Go out after work.
Yep.
Okay. So in terms of businesses, I think it's probably worth now going into the application itself. And if you have your mobile, your phone open, if you can open the application, okay, and let's go through some of this.
And can we do that in the interview if we're not familiar with the app? Because I had literally never seen this app until today. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, you know what? If somebody asks me these questions and I don't know Google Trips,
yeah,
I would tell them right away, because there's no point in talking about a product that you don't know.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think Deepak, it is fine if if you actually try the application during the interview. Just try it out. I think it's okay to say that. And
sounds good.
So let's start with Yeah.
So in users, right? Just talking on that business trip use case, can corporates be a potential users here? Suppose after every work trip, you usually go for reimbursement of all the expenditures that you have done in the trip, right? From your employer. So maybe those corporates can also use Google Trip to quickly consolidate all the different expenditure that an employee has done. so
yeah,
that it
that's not
helps
a
it.
bad idea.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's a very good idea. So let's keep that in mind. Let's put that here.
So I guess my question is, how do you arrive at an answer like that via framework, right? Because at Google or Facebook, it's not enough just to sort of say the answer like that, like you came up with it, which is great, but you have to kind of follow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, when I'm like talking about the employees, for example, and who answered this question? Who gave this idea?
Partha.
Who?
Partha.
Oh, hey, Partha. Partha, you probably were thinking about employees, right? So when talking about users, we might think, hey, it could be employees, but it also could be companies, right? So, and here you can come up with the idea, companies today use these very expensive, enterprise solutions today. I think I forget the name of one of them that is very, very
there are a lot of them, Workday and all these things.
So this is one right off the bat. You can say one way to monetize this, and I would think about this is by selling the, integrate with companies. Right? So I would keep that as top of mind, right?
So like Expensify, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. At Google, they're going to be like really fast, and people, you won't have all the time that we're having here, right?
Deepak pointed that at Google we cannot just come up with an idea like this, but you have to follow up with a lot of how would you strategize framework, correct? So what exactly you mean by that? What do they expect?
Oh, me? Yeah. So I basically, when you're arriving at a set of answers at Google, right, you have to show very clearly how you arrived at that in a structured manner. And you have to basically slice up the problem into multiple logical chunks and then extract the relevant the answers from that. And one of those answers you extract, I know we're going about this backwards, but one of those answers you extract should be what Partha mentioned about how you can use this as a way to kind of replace other enterprise tools. So I'm trying to think in this structure that we're following, how do you arrive at that answer?
Yeah, can you arrive it at the top here? Because we're not coming up with a solution for this, right? It's just an idea of like, say, hey, let's compete with Concur.
So we've basically added companies to our list of users of the app, essentially.
I see. Thank you.
So, okay, so now let's go into number 3 here. Let's talk about the user experience. What are the main pain points? And then, can a moment be monetized there? Okay. So let's start with what they have already and with things to do. Okay, which is this feature, things to do. Okay, I'm going to start with things to do. And we can start here with scenarios, okay? So imagine you're on vacation, you're visiting a place, what are the different things that you do for this thing can help you, right? Let's start with somebody. Let's say that you're visiting, I don't know, Paris. I'm sure
So would you try to open up the APIs to integrate with other apps, for example, to get the local? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, if you go down that route, that's going to be an immediate ding because you're thinking about the solution before you've outlined the various scenarios. So that's what Milena was talking about. Like, you want to think about what do you do with the app once you get there, right? Like, you're going to open it up and look for like restaurants or look for city tours, or you're going to look for hotel reservations.
Exactly. Let's go from the beginning. I'm at the airport. I'm arriving. Okay. So I want to get to the hotel.
Yeah. So ideally, in this case, you want to get to the hotel, and probably your app already has that reservation pulled up, so it should be able to give you the address quickly so that you can, map it there, and you could monetize it potentially by contracting other local cab companies through the app or Uber or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't know. I may be jumping to the solution here, actually.
Yeah. Contract ride share. right there, or taxis. It doesn't have that yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe, yeah, I mean, you can even have that ready for you. You get out of the airplane, it's right there.
So my question, Malena, is here, should we list out the scenarios first and then, because I know I kind of jumped into the solution as soon as I listed the use case. Should we do it that way or list out all the use cases and then go to the solution?
Since this is not a product design question and it's a monetization question, I think
sweet.
it's appropriate to just immediately jump into monetization.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So you're at the airport, you want to get to the hotel, you get there. All right, now you get into your room, whatever. If you are solo, let's say that you don't have, this is not a group thing. This is just, you are there, with your family or with your partner or whatever. Some people plan this out and some people don't, right? And probably we should have these consumers separated into those planners and those people that don't plan. And so people just plan a little bit, but not much, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe for me, it would be like, okay, what should I do? I need to rest, but first thing is like, oh, I'm hungry. Where can I go eat, right?
Hmm.
So, going out, going to eat, they show you the restaurants and the stars and whatever. Is there a way to monetize this? Going to eat, I want to know where to go.
Well, the same way Yelp does it. You could have sponsored ads.
Okay. Where to go, right? Depending on what I want to eat, the best restaurant. I want to have the best experience ever in Paris, right? Or maybe a special kind of food, whatever your needs are. All right, so monetize it by, you said, maybe sponsored ads?
Yeah, I mean, in the way Yelp does it, basically.
Okay, sponsored ads, but I also sponsor ads together with the organic ones, right? Organic.
Yeah, of course, yeah, because you don't want to destroy the integrity of the search algorithm.
Is there something about going out to eat that you can monetize even better with this?
You could even hook it into, like, you could have a reservation system, or you can integrate it with the reservation. And so that, I guess, Shreyans, I think you mentioned about API integration with other apps. Like, this would be where you would mention that, basically. Like, you can integrate this app with, I don't know, SeatMe or other reservation app systems.
But okay, so that means that you are monetizing this from the business.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Monetize API integration.
Yeah, so you would have the businesses basically use that. You would have to build a reservation system, obviously, and then have the businesses use that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go. Okay, so I'm at the restaurant. I have a nice time. Get the transportation. We already talked about that.
Sorry, Malena, just a quick question. I know I'm talking a lot. It's just because these ideas are coming to my mind. And in this particular step, number 2, in addition to the reservation, you could also manage things like the payment, right? You could settle the check. You can, if you're going out with with different groups of people, you can have the bill splitting. All of that can be done in sort of one-stop shop with this application. So it makes the dining experience really seamless.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, the next question that I'm probably gonna ask if I were to interview you is like, what would be, why would restaurants do this, right?
Yeah, the reason, in my opinion, the reason they do this is because that basically removes the friction, because restaurants don't necessarily care about handling the billing process. They're more interested in, like, getting you seated in their seats and serving you food and getting you out quickly so they can have turnover. So if you can have things like reservation and bill payment done through the app while you're eating, that actually helps them get you the heck out of the restaurant so they can seat the next party. So,
okay.
Yeah, and it's a good experience for the customers also who are eating.
And actually, what I would offer is not only that, but I would offer perhaps analytics to the restaurants.
Right. Yeah. I didn't think of that.
Analytics services, and that would be cool because then you can know overall what the entire population in Paris is eating in your country.
Right, exactly. They know which dishes of theirs are most popular and, you know, all that stuff.
Okay, let's go to, yeah, so I'm eating, having a good time. Next day, I wake up, now I want to start my day. And you have the daily plan, right? You have the daily plan, which is here, which tells you, okay, this is what you can do from 9 a.m. in the next 8 hours. All right. So here they already started doing this. You know, I want to get tickets, buy tickets for entrance to the places in daily plan, right? In the daily plan, and they are already doing that with some of them. Okay. And what they are not doing yet is what Airbnb is doing, which is they have a market, you know, for local activities. Right? So that could be something that I would talk about this in terms of expanding. We were talking about expanding, right? So for expansion, I would talk here, I would say, you know, into local activities. You know, with local hosts, right? Okay. What other things are possible? I mean, and they are hardly monetizing this. Like I only saw 2 tickets for, or 2 advertisements, whatever, for the Coliseum or something else. There's nothing else there. Like for example, you know, they could sell tickets for events, for games, for games, for concerts, and they're not doing anything of that. And probably because it's totally difficult, right?
Yeah, I mean, all I see is like, I mean, for example, I'm looking at San Francisco and they're like, Japanese tea garden. I mean, that's great, but what do I do with that? You know, it just gives you directions and the website. I could have found that out anywhere.
Yeah, they need to close that loop, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
cool.
they can.
Yeah.
Maybe they can recommend city passes and
yeah,
things that tourism board
that's awesome.
promotes.
All kinds of things.
I think they actually do that. I just saw it. They do recommend places and city passes. I think as part of the discounts.
I mean, they recommend it, but I think what Jyoti was saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can actually help facilitate some of those transactions.
Exactly.
Yeah,
maybe they can buy it over.
But they're not doing that yet, right? So tickets for everything, right?
Yeah.
What else?
Another pain point I noticed is dealing with foreign currency, exchanging it, and that's such a big pain point. So probably facilitating most of these, say going to a restaurant, going somewhere, getting a ticket, all of it through the app, probably partnering with a payment solution.
Yeah, digital
to do that.
Yeah, what's the hurdle with this?
Yeah, I mean, it'll solve the pain point of dealing with foreign currency, exchanging it.
I mean, it won't work for micropayments. That's the hurdle, because there'll be transaction fees, and it'll only work on high dollar amounts. Basically.
Yeah.
Like it won't work on, at least not until the blockchain is ready.
Yeah, and also you have to think that all these other agencies and places need to have an integrated system with yours, right? They need to accept digital payment. Not a bad idea, but you know, I think it's gonna be. It's not only depending on you; it depends on also.
Yeah, but over here, can't you say, like, I mean, especially if it's Google, right? You can say you can integrate this thing with Google Wallet, where you already have your credit card stored, and then anywhere, as you're making this transaction through the app, you can pay. You can hook that app up to Google Wallet and just make the payments seamlessly. And of course, that's a use case very specific to Google. I suppose if you're interviewing with Facebook, I mean, they have their own. They don't have a wallet, but you know.
You can partner with another payment solution as well, right?
PayPal
Even if it's
or
not Google. Yeah. So like Splitwise does with Venmo, or partner with other
right.
payment solutions. And
are there any, let's think of, can we come up with some monetization that is not obvious? Because I think all the things that we have said here are semi-obvious, right?
So currently there is no way to collaborate with your trip buddies. So
Your what?
there's no way to collaborate with your trip buddies. For example, if I'm going with my friends on a trip, uh, all of us share the same itinerary. But if some of us wants to plan, most of them might have a Gmail account. So as a premium subscription model, you can give us that feature that anyone, so one of us can be a moderator, the other one can be a contributor, an admin, who can then create itinerary around it.
Yeah, the thing that I will find difficult to, with that idea is that, first of all, Google, imagine a Google application where you have to pay a subscription for this type of service. I think it would be unlikely, right? They're getting a lot of data from you already, from all of this, and now you have to pay a subscription for, and also the use case that you mentioned. I don't know. Have you run into that, where you are?
I mean, also as a general rule of thumb, like for consumer applications, Google will never ever charge. It's almost always going to be free. Yeah.
It seems quite unlikely, right?
Yeah.
The use case that you mentioned is quite elaborate, something unusual.
Okay, maybe the way I tried to solve it by a subscription model was not the right way, but as a user, I have felt this pain point that a place where multiple people would like to collaborate to come up with an itinerary.
Right. But that would be a really good answer if the question was like, how would you improve?
How would you improve it? Yeah, not how do you monetize it, right?
I see.
I mean, not to say that it's not a good answer. We just haven't figured out how because I mean, it's obviously an awesome feature, and I'm not sure how that would monetize.
Yeah. Maybe as we discussed, maybe it'll come to the later part where what would you like to add on, right? How would you improve the app?
Malina, I just want to understand how big is the print market in US?
How big?
Photo printing.
Photo printing. Sorry.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is, on trip, people take a lot of photographs, right? And sometimes they want to capture that memory by taking photo prints.
Yeah.
Maybe we can engage with those businesses which provide those kind of physical prints, and through Google Trips, we can maybe send out such photo print orders.
That's not a bad idea. You can think of like maybe because if you're using Google Trips and you're taking these daily plans, maybe with some enhancements, you can actually enter photos at each point, right? Where you are, and it's correlated to your daily plan, right?
Well, what if you actually sold those pictures to the businesses themselves? Like, I mean, obviously with the user permission.
First idea, which was again, it was the photo book.
Yeah, the photo book printing, or what Deepak said is also making sense.
Like
stock photography, right? Though there are a lot of sites with stock photography.
Yeah, what I was thinking was that, I mean, obviously you'd need the user's permission for this, but like businesses like photographs about their businesses, because people get to see more things. And Google now has this enormous collection of businesses that users have taken. Maybe they could split the profits, with the user or something like that, and like have the businesses pay for access to photographs. And that could actually be a subscription, because Google will charge subscription to businesses, just not to consumers.
Yeah.
So I think we have a lot of ideas. I think it's time to narrow down on the key ones and prioritize and come up with a final answer.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. The way I would prioritize them is obviously, and we don't have time for it, but to calculate ROI, obviously it has to be, what revenue can you get? And this is an estimation problem over what is the cost and, implementation cost. But you can also think about complexity. So since this is going to take so much time, perhaps the way I would do this is by, thinking about, in terms of massive impact, which one has massive impact and less complexity. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I would say massive impact and, complexity, low complexity.
I think this also depends on the business goal of the company. Because Google already has a lot of revenue through search, so it might not be a priority for Google to monetize strips at a higher level. So I would actually approach it in the way that we think first of the customer experience, the user experience of the app, and just start with something that is minimal friction and probably already exists in the market. So one idea that I have is there's a I think in the travel industry, there's something sort of like a referral fee. Expedia and all these sites do it. So when you refer a customer to a hotel, basically you get money off the top. So I think using existing industry mechanisms to monetize the app could work without hurting the customer experience.
I see, but are those any of those monetization things that you're mentioning? Here, did we mention any of those, or do you have an idea of how to do that?
I think we mentioned them. I think monetizing from businesses is something like that. Is getting leads to businesses or sending people to book a business or book a service, book an adventure. I think it's very similar, and this is an existing industry, so definitely there's money to be made.
Okay.
And so let's focus on making that as self-serve as possible so that it scales. But that's just something. Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's start with something. Let's do I like this minimal friction idea, because I think that you're right. In type of consumer applications, they're probably what they want, right? Okay, so let's go to the hotel part. The hotel experience, contracting, writing, share rights. That's easy, right? That's a no-brainer. So to me, that's a low-hanging fruit. And they're probably going to do that soon. So I'm not even going to consider this because it's not original. Do you agree?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. I would say it, but it's not original. Okay. How about this? Where to go? Sponsor ads for restaurants, making reservations, the billing directly. I think that's an interesting idea.
Well, also that's the easiest to scale, right? Like contracting with ride shares and stuff like that. Like you have to do it city by city, whereas this thing, it's just a self-serve ad platform, which they already do. So
yeah, this is complex.
Yeah.
Reservation, providing analytics services, perhaps, sponsor ads. This is not that easy either, right?
Well, the ads part is easy. The rest of it may be a little.
That's part is easy, of course, and that's obvious. But the billing, that will take some integration with a lot of these restaurants, right?
Yep.
So, I would find this as like, this is also minimal friction, right? Because the user doesn't have to pay anything.
What if we made like the two-dimensional axis basically with X and Y, and I think one, like basically the 4 quadrants, right, which are easy to accomplish and high impact, and then difficult and low impact. And so you have the 4 quadrants, and then you can sort of map each of these on the quadrants, and then give like a visual thing to them to say.
Yeah, that's fine, but I think that how can I say? I think it's better to give insights instead of trying to put it into quadrants.
Okay.
As Gabriel mentioned, for example, the insight that Gabriel mentioned is like, hey, you know what? They're also already making a lot of money on ads. This is a consumer app. We don't want to piss off the users, right? We're getting a lot of information from them. So maybe the way to focus is on minimal friction.
Right.
And like, you know, and by minimal friction is like, let's pick those ideas where the user is not paying. Who is paying is the business.
Right.
So I like that, right? I think that makes sense to me. Because, you know, unlikely that the users will, you know, first of all, they're not going to pay for anything. They're going to only pay for something that, you know, buy a ticket or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that this billing, you know, directly when you go to a restaurant, I think it's a good idea. Minimal friction for the user is a good candidate. These, of course, are good ideas, right? But they are like low-hanging fruits. So I don't think it's not going to impress Google.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other ones, the photo book, that's a nice idea. I love that. I think people love photos, want to keep their memories, right? And if they can print them, that's an extra business for Google, except that, you know, how many people don't print books? Do a lot of people print books?
No.
No. That's why I asked, like, how big is the market? I know in Japan they do.
Yeah.
That's a
it's also a shrinking market.
Yeah, so this one, because I think people are more digital now, I would be hesitant. Selling photos, enabling people selling their photos to businesses. Yeah.
And that's scalable also, because it's all digital. You don't actually need to print anything.
Right.
You're storing it already, so.
So I will consider this one, okay, also. So between the billing and enable people to sell their photos.
What type of business are we talking about, though?
Oh, you know, could be restaurants, right?
Anything like, or even when you go on like a certain tour, right? Like you take a tour of the city or something like that, you're in Paris and that tour group wants to promote their businesses. They could show the pictures that their customers have taken, you know, in like and our customers took this blah, blah, blah section of their website or whatever.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm thinking, yeah, except that.
And Malena, photos can also be sold to stock photography websites like Shutterstock and Getty Images.
Yeah,
so these are websites, they sell photos to other consumers. So in order to source the photo, it can like crowdsource it from all the travelers who have gone.
So maybe have a feature, but this would, you know, entail having a feature that enables to sell your photo right there, right? Because you're not going to get back home from your trip and think about, oh, I can sell this photo. I think it has to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So this would require an extra feature, right? And I don't know. The problem that I see with this is I don't know how eager businesses are about that. You know, because unless it's completely automated and there's an algorithm that selects incredible photos for them, how important it is for them to have a photo, right? Because their business is not going to change all the time.
Well, that's where Google's expertise actually comes in, right? Because they do, in fact, have artificial intelligence algorithm that can...
I understand that. I'm talking on the demand side from the businesses. You know, like if I have a restaurant, yeah, maybe I change the picture every year. Do I care to change it every month? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? So on the demand side, I don't know if there would be demand for this.
Yeah.
From the businesses, unless it's I don't know. So
tour groups would definitely be more interested in that.
Who?
The tour groups.
Oh,
like when you're going on tours and stuff, there are constantly photos being taken. So
yeah, tour groups. Okay, so that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Or even like places that do any kind of activity, right? Like if you're going, I don't know, bumper tubing or parasailing or whatever, like everyone loves to see pictures of that. So bungee jumping. I mean, hell, people keep like I recorded myself while skydiving. So, you know, that's stuff that people do.
You know what I was thinking also? Maybe Google can create something like Instagram and people can put the photos there, and now it's a new venue for them to, you know, sell advertisements.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anyways, I think that, from all these ideas, I think the one with minimum friction is the one with the billing directly on your phone, providing services. Now, if we were talking about, if the question would be like, okay, so now tell me, how would you expand this application in order to even increment those possibilities of monetization? What are your ideas?
I have an idea for, this is more about the usage of the app. So I think, for all Google consumer apps, definitely the biggest thing is how engaged the users can get with the app and how many daily active users or, just active users we can get.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also Google has a great recommendation engine in the backend. So they're really good with machine learning. So I was thinking, based on all the different data that Google already has about you, including what you have authorized the trip app to get, which is, itineraries, flight dates, some of the places where you want to go. I think we can do some in-app recommendations. This is more like a customer-facing feature, where you would say, "Oh, I noticed that you don't have a reservation for tonight. Maybe you just want to put on the spot, right?" So we can ask the user, "Hey, do you want us to find a recommended hotel around you?" And go through Google's loop to book the hotel. Google gets paid, but the user gets the benefit. Similar, we can do something for a restaurant, right? So if someone is traveling, we know their local time. We know that they've been hiking and they're on their way down. So we can ask the user, "Hey, do you want me to recommend you a place for lunch?" And if the user say yes, we can also recommend, "Hey, there's these 5 restaurants where there's a table available. Like, which one would you like to book?"
Yeah. So basically, you're saying, "Hey, let's really power up the recommendation part of this, make it more personalized, more in the moment."
Yeah, what I'm trying to propose is how can we improve the user experience? How can we get engagement up in the app while at the same time getting getting the business, which is Google Trips, to enjoy a revenue source, and really leveraging the strengths that Google has. For example, Google owns Zagat, which is restaurant platform. They have they have the machine learning backend, so they have all the data. They have Google Flights. They have all these other products that can actually improve the customer experience.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very good idea, and I think they can improve a lot from beginning to the end of your trip. Now, talking about the beginning of your trip, you guys mentioned that right now it's kind of silly where it gives you information about your tickets from Gmail. So, if they improve them, I see big monetization there, which is now actually tell me where should I go based on where I've been, and now I'm gonna buy the ticket, right? But that's a huge investment.
Also, like in real time, you could search for the best flights, the best hotels, and recommend tours along that. And
that's the direct competition, with the OTAs, and that requires.
Google Flights is there, and Google Hotel Ads. So those 2 products are already catering to these needs of the user.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So they need to integrate that into the app. Yeah. I mean, I honestly thought that's what it was. I was super excited, and then I was like,
"Damn." They're there, but they're actually dealing with a lot of especially in the EU side.
And you know what? They're probably working on that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
They are probably working on that. They're gonna take over the world.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's a beautiful app. I really love the UI. Great. I think that we have some ideas for this. Usually they want groundbreaking ideas. I think probably we came up with a few. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of.
What do you think?
It was a good exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, enjoyed it as well.
Yeah. If I wanted to add just feedback about how we can improve it for later, is I know that you came up with the framework from, you listed the framework first, and then we kind of jumped into the ideas. But I think, in my opinion, might be helpful if we can go through each step of the framework without listing it. We can start like, hey, what are the clarifying questions that we want to ask about this? interview question, and then kind of like everyone contribute to that idea, and then for each step we can make a consensus of which one we're picking and kind of like move forward. I think that might have been very interesting.
So you're saying, so the framework is this, just the headlines, right?
Right.
We didn't go into the details until later.
Yeah. For example, I think we could have defined the users and come up with a consensus of who the users are early on.
Yeah.
Then we can go into the features and what are the goals of the features and what are the business goals, and kind of like make a consensus on that, and then kind of like go through each step.
Why do you think that will help better?
Because I think we threw out a lot of ideas, but they were out of order, and for me it was very difficult to organize. And it was not until later in the meeting that I was able to kind of like chime in and share some of the thoughts that I have. So I thought that process might have been.
And also Google likes it that way. What Gabriel is saying is actually what Google and Facebook also like. They want to see a flow, basically.
Yeah, the way. So the reason why I started with this, because I'm trying to understand how this to work better. Because if I didn't start with the headlines, I think that there would not be any logical thinking behind it.
No, I think that was the right thing. But then after that, we kind of get into the users and then sort of drill deep into that. But that's not what we were doing. We were like throwing out ideas and users at the same time and updating the users based on the idea, which is a little backwards. And Gabriel, I think, hit the nail on the head. Like, and that was my concern as well. If you go that route, because I think Partha came up with a really awesome idea, but then we had to retrofit that into the user pool. So like it should be the other way around, basically.
So what? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand how to make it better. So let's say that I just put this user scripts, pain points, how to monetize, and pick the best in just headlines. Then you're saying take one and talk about it, right? Is that what you're saying? Take the other one and talk about it? Like, for example, let me just put this here.
So one approach that I might have taken is first understand the question. Like the question is, how do we monetize trips?
Yeah.
And I think just for that question, we can start by asking like, why does Google want to monetize trips? How does trips fit into the product strategy of the overall company? What was the purpose of the original product manager who built trips? Why did he build it? And I think that way we can kind of like start diving into
clarifying. So you're clarifying questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to put labels here because I think it's important that you tell your interviewer how you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go in there and I just start asking questions and I don't tell them where I am leading them, they might think that I'm very, not structured. That I don't think in a structured way, right? So maybe you start with, you don't say I'm asking clarifying questions, but you're saying let's start with clarifying questions.
So could you guys give a few examples of what are the good clarifying questions and what are the questions that you shouldn't ask in an interview? Like which will show that okay, you don't have enough knowledge of.
Can we leave that to the end?
Sure.
I just want to focus right now on the flow, on how to, what Gabriel was talking about. So Gabriel, you were saying clarifying questions first, okay? And then, what I would do is say, after I have my clarifying questions, I'll say, okay, so let me tell you how we work on this problem. Okay, the first thing I want to think about is who is the user, right? And then I will go into the board and put users. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right in telling the interviewer, how would you work on the problem?
The next thing, after I identify who the main user is of this application and what their main pain, I wanna talk about what the pain points are that that Trips is meeting, okay, and go through a journey to see at which moment can we monetize, and if we're not monetizing, how can we monetize it, okay? So pain points, journey, and then I would say, how to monetize. And then after that, I want to select, the best ROI. So that's how I will introduce myself and say, hey, let me, tell me if this makes sense to you, right? And then I say, when I walk through this, I say, okay, let me start now, after I ask my clarifying questions, let me start with the users. Boom, users. Okay, and at this point, Partha had the great insight, of companies. So at that moment, I can say, there are companies that could use this, and so that's one big idea. But right now, Trips doesn't have that solution, but it's monetizable, so I'm gonna put it out there. Mm-hmm. And maybe I put, monetization solutions on the side. And as I am talking, I mention what said. Okay, connection with enterprises. And I just keep it there. And so then as I am talking, I start putting here my solutions ideas, like separate them, right? And then when I finish, I say, okay, look at all this. Let me pick the best one. Mm-hmm. But that's what I was trying to do. Like I would never start just by starting. I actually would tell the interviewer, what is my thought process?
Yeah, makes sense.
But I see what you're saying. We were going back and forth because I was not as organized as I am here, right? So I'm writing perhaps too much in convoluted, in a convoluted way.
Yeah, I thought, pain points could be, pain points was not the core of the question, meaning it was monetization. So, yeah. Pain points kind of like for me, it's like an outside factor because probably the app has solved already some pain points, right? And the next goal of the product manager here is, how do you monetize strips, and what is the goal of the user, what problem we're solving for the user, and is there any potential monetization opportunities within those use cases or user flows?
Yeah, I hear you, and this is probably part of this because I don't know how to think about monetizing anything unless I go through the journey of the user using the app. But I hear you. Probably this goes in here.
Right. I think the journey, totally agree. I think just talking pain points kind of confused the framework. I don't know if anyone
exactly. I agree with Gabriel in the sense. In my Google interview, the monetization question often came towards the tail end. So it was a product design or a feature introduction question, and then towards the end, they would ask, okay, so how would you think about monetizing this? Then the pain points and those points become irrelevant because you've spoken about it already. Yes, talking about the user makes sense because you want to make sure the way you monetize it fits in with the user experience as a whole. But then talking about individual pain points is not as useful for the monetization because you have a product, you have these set of features built in already, and you're thinking about monetizing that product and not modifying that product. So it's the next step to building a feature. So I believe maybe this framework can be modified a bit, and instead of pain points, think about what are the major features or list of features that the product has, and where is the opportunity to monetize it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Sophia. I do have a comment. So I think there are two perspectives to monetization. One is looking at where is the user spending the most time and how do you take advantage of where those impressions are. If we're thinking about ads, we didn't really go through the strengths of the company, which is definitely ads. I do sort of agree with the comments that there's a very good chance that Google is not going to monetize on this app because it's just like probably going to be peanuts for them. But for the sake of this exercise, I would say there's two things. One is like, where are people spending most of the time? The second one is the new way of monetizing is actually looking at how to bring value to a user that you couldn't have otherwise done through just a normal consumer experience, meaning it was too costly for Google to develop it on their own and they have to partner with someone. So then you could, maybe it's through affiliate marketing or partnerships. But even taking like a step back, there's like probably like 4 ways to monetize. One is like you pay for an app download. Another one is ads. Another one is affiliate marketing. And then the last one is either selling a product or a service. Since we've already sort of ruled out app download because they don't charge for anything, and then product and service, they don't charge for anything, then we're looking at partnerships and also ads.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was thinking about, which we did not talk about, which is, and when you're thinking about some of these other companies who are investing a lot for the future, is we talked about like healing transportation, but what if it connected to like the self-driving Google cars?
Mm.
And then we talked about, well, we didn't get into, I wish we kind of delved into more into the user journey, because I actually think it's kind of interesting to sort of look at the chunks and steps of where people spend their time when it's planning. But I think early on, we decided that it was going to be the user at the location already. But I think there's interesting things even before the location, because that means you limited yourself to people who plan trips like on the fly. Because like if I'm in Rome, like at least for me, it's highly unlikely that I'm not going to know what I'm going to do, because that's just not the type of person that I am.
Yeah.
And so if we looked at, okay, maybe it's like discovery and research before the trip is happening, then another thing to consider is whether, like what are the assets that Google has already? Like Street View, like what does the hotel look like on the street that I'm about to book? What does, the things that are recommended? They have Zagat. So what are the reviews coming from those restaurants? Pulling it all together.
You're saying to partner with third parties?
It looked like when I was looking at the app, it actually looked like they were partnering up with third parties. I don't know if you guys took a look.
I think, well, they probably are. But this, for example, for restaurants and stuff like that?
I mean, I don't see any partnering. It's mostly they've just referenced various websites of people. I don't see any actual transactions happening between businesses at all. At least not a single one that I can see.
Yeah. So you might not see it on the surface, but there are, I'll just give you like another example, like compare cards, for example. Like when you look for a credit card and you go and apply, when that transaction actually happens, there's a kickback to the referral. So we might not know that a transaction is actually happening.
So you think it's a curated search result based on some transaction that happened in the background?
Well, for a search engine to be able to know what services tourist companies offer, you can't do that by scraping. You're going to have to pull that information from partners. And it's pretty good. The partners are supplying that. They've contracted out.
And given that they are selling tickets already for some businesses, for example, I told you, like in Rome, they have like different tickets for tours of the Colosseum or whatever. I am sure that they already have this way for businesses, touring businesses, to sponsor, to pay for ads, right? And that's what they show first, right? And they're selling the tickets for that. They probably do that already. All right. Thank you, Sophia. That was really insightful.
Hey, Sophia, can you repeat the 4 monetization strategies that you listed?
Yeah, the fourth one is actually selling a service or product.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. I mean the entire four. I'm just taking some notes.
Okay. You charge for the app download. Do affiliate marketing where you actually partner up with partners and you take a cut.
Mm-hmm.
Ads itself, and then lastly, you actually sell a service or product.
Gotcha. Thanks a lot.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for organizing.
Thank you. This is
Nice to meet you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.